Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Housekeepers podcast. Dare I say, the cleanest hour in podcasting. I am excited to be introducing you and me, quite frankly, because I'm new to Mr. Salvador Martinez as well. Sal, yes, Sal, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sal is the owner of PHES Services, PHES
Yes,
Cleaning
sir.
Services. You know what's
Yeah.
funny is it's PHES, but when I pronounce it, I think of the foreign exchange student character on that 70s show.
Yeah, that's actually where I got it from.
Is that true?
Yes.
Tell me
So
how is that possible? Were you the foreign exchange student?
no, I wish. I wish I had that guy's bank account. But
Well,
no,
there you go.
I know, right? No. So back in the day, in the neighborhood that I lived in, around that time, the show was gaining popularity, and I think we were like, I have another brother who's about a year and a half, 2 years younger than me, and they told him that he looked like Fez. At that time, I was into graffiti and stuff because I was getting influence in high school, and they were calling him that because they said he looked like the guy on the show. So then I started writing it. I thought the name was cool, and I kind of just took it and used it as a moniker, to be honest, for graffiti, and it kind of stuck. And then when I was thinking of a business name, I was like, well, what can I use? Everyone kind of knows me as that. That's a nickname I've had since I was like 16 now. And that's what I went with. And none of the domains were taken. The email was available, so all of that was easy to find.
It's funny how much what's available dictates what we call ourselves nowadays, right? For
Oh
business
yeah.
names. And if it's not a .com, we're all super scared of, I remember this. I grew up, there was a music store that was near me, and it's called Play It Again Sam.
Hmm.
So Play It Again Sam guitars. And like my whole childhood, we all hung out at Play It Again Sam's. You were all musicians or wannabe anyway. And then when the internet came out, they changed their name to Sam Guitar. And I was like, that's a dumb name. Why would you do that? And it was because Play It Again Sam was already taken as a
Oh
.com,
wow.
right? Like they had to change their name because of
Yeah.
the .com. Like Sam's Guitars or Play It. I don't know. I don't even know what their name is now. It's no longer Play It Again Sam. I'll tell you that.
Well, at least it's gotten easier now. You can just Google your domain and look that stuff up. I think back in the day, it was probably a lot harder to make sure that none of that was taken.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As a matter of fact, I probably am one of those people who own far too many domain names.
Uh-huh.
And you know what's funny about that is because every time I have an idea, I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy the domain because it's like $12 and I just want to
Mhm.
secure it for a year. And if I don't do anything with it, I'll let it go, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I have a friend who is looking at my domain names and they're like, you have the most random domain names. You don't have to buy them.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's going to take them. Nobody's going to take them.
You never know, though, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You never know. I'm gonna let it go for
Uh-huh.
right this second, but I do want to come back to that you were a graffiti artist,
Oh yeah. Okay.
which basically just means the bane of all cleaning professionals' existence. So we'll get to
True.
that being
Okay.
how dare you? You are no, it's funny where we all come from, it's
Oh yeah.
this trajectory. So I would love to hear about it. You're in
Mhm.
Illinois now.
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up?
So I was born in Mexico City. We didn't get here until I was about 6 years old. And we got to Chicago, I think it was around 87, 88. And then we were here for, I believe, about 4 or 5 years. We came, trying to get here, work on the American dream, save money, build a house out there, and then, come back and forth or have the ability to do that. But I guess we liked it a lot. We ended up staying, and we've been here ever since. I grew up in the South Side neighborhood of Chicago. It's called Pilsen, and I've been there. We were there for about 14 years, and then later we've moved around. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, how I got to Chicago.
So it was your parents' initial idea was, and I kind of heard this before, like your idea is to come to America, work, put your head down, really work hard, 4 or 5 years, save every dime, go back
Hmm.
to Mexico and buy a house, build a house, right?
Yeah.
Take that money and put some good use to it. Is that
Hmm.
kind of what you're saying? That was the plan?
Yeah, that was the plan, and the reason it didn't work out that way is because my mom ended up getting pregnant with my second brother, and I think at that time we were already here, so I
Hmm.
think having to go back there and start all over there, it just didn't make sense for them. So we
Hmm.
ended up just staying here altogether, and
Yeah.
we've been here ever since. Yeah, because I have another two brothers, and they were also born here.
What did your parents do for work?
So when we got here, my dad was working at a restaurant, and because my mom was pregnant at the time, she was a stay-at-home mom.
Sure.
So she was at home. My dad was working at a restaurant. I think he was what is it? The people that help out the busboys, and like load the dishes into the machines and all
Hmm.
that stuff, and just
Hmm.
the certain tasks they need in the kitchen. He did all of that. So he did that for a while, and then he got into trucking, and that's what he's been doing ever since.
Oh, very cool. What
Mhm.
kind of, like, is he a truck driver?
Yeah, so he's an owner operator. He has his own truck.
Awesome.
He's been doing that I think about 6, 7 years now, and he loves it. He loves that, and then we're all grown, so he loves that he can work on his own time. No one lives at home anymore, so it's just really him and my mom, and that pays their bills and then some.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's that type of lifestyle of being an over for personally, I hate
Mhm.
driving at this point.
Yeah.
I've driven enough in my life, but
Uh,
I do love the I've never even been in a like an 18 wheeler. I've never even
no,
been in a cab of one.
no way.
I've never my whole life, but it
Uh-huh.
seems like it'd be pretty cool, right?
Oh
Just
yeah,
the
it's really cool. I mean, I remember he would take us out on long road trips that he would go on, and it was cool because they have like a bed in the back. They have yeah, like some of them even have bunk beds, so it's
wow.
pretty cool. It's almost like a little mini studio apartment. Yeah.
Yeah, you throw a PlayStation back there and
Oh yeah.
you just
Yeah, and
drive
this
it
was
down.
back then. I'm sure now they're like pretty with iPads and all this other stuff. I'm sure it's pretty cool in there.
Yeah, I bet it's completely wired up so you can just I don't know, it's pretty awesome. So, I have a friend, there's a guy who I had on the show a long time ago, and he had such a similar story to your dad in
Hmm.
that he came to the United States. I think he came from Brazil. He
Hmm.
went to work for a kitchen, and he was just like the type of person who would do anything.
Yeah.
Do the dishes, I'll go do the dishes. You want me to do this, I'll go. And he worked his way up, and
Yeah.
just being that type of person who is willing to do anything, just say yes to anything, and just owned it all in the end. Really, really great. Hard work. That's what it takes.
Yeah, no, it does, and I mean, he's instilled that into us since the beginning, and luckily, he's also been the type of person that a lot of times I know immigrants that have family members and friends that have friends, and sometimes they get here and they kind of get stuck in the situation they're in. He's been someone that always tries to better himself. He started working when he got into trucking. They paid for his school. He was doing the school. Then he had to work for that company, I believe, for like 2 years. After that, he's always just try to, I guess, get in, take that next step within the industry, where now he's his own boss. So I'm proud of him, and he definitely helped us out and instilled that in us.
That is really cool. So, what was it like growing up in the South Side of Chicago, an immigrant kid? What was that like? Did you play sports? Did you work?
It was tough because I grew up in the Jordan era, so it was rough, because I mean, I'm short. I'm maybe like 5'8". I'm not tall, and obviously during that time, every kid wanted to play basketball. Uh, Obviously, it didn't work out, but I think that yeah, growing up, it was cool. It was different than it is now. That neighborhood now is very up and coming, and it's changed a lot. But back then, there was more gangs in the neighborhood. It was a little bit
Mm,
rougher. But to be honest, we never really got in trouble. Thank God, my parents never really let us be out and about when we didn't need to be, and they were pretty strict with us. So I never got in any kind of trouble. But the neighborhood was there for me to, I guess, find trouble if I was looking for it. Yeah.
it's funny how trouble is that way, right? Doesn't matter
Oh
what neighborhood you're in. I'll tell you, I've been in some really bad neighborhoods and really good ones, and there's trouble in both. You
oh
can-
yeah, for sure.
Maybe not the same kind of trouble, but if you're looking for it, you could certainly find it, right?
Hmm.
So when did you get your first job? Did you ever have like a paper route? Did you sell pretzels? Did you anything like that? Like it's a legit thing.
Yeah. You know what? My first job I got when I was like 15. I was 15 years old, and I remember in the neighborhood a lot of video stores were opening up. This was during the Blockbuster days. And my first job was at a video store. I remember I was 15. The guy would pay me cash every week. And I was there for a while. I was there for about 2 years because then they opened up a second location. And I was pretty much the guy that you came in, you gave him your tapes. I would charge you the late fees and rewind all the tapes, put them
So
back.
you're the rewind guy.
Yeah, I was a rewind guy
Please
with the
be
little cards
kind.
and all that.
Rewind.
Hmm. But it was fun. I liked it there. I would hang out with his dad used to work with me because he would help him with the business, and he would just watch baseball all day and occasionally like start taking naps during the baseball games. It was a good time. Yeah.
That is super fun. That's really great. A video store.
Hmm.
And all right, so you get through high. Did you play sports in high school? Did you?
You know what? I
You wanted to
remember
play basketball,
I
but
wanted
did
to
you
play
play
basketball.
basketball?
No, I tried out for the team. Didn't even have a chance. I didn't really play sport like on a team in high school, but I played basketball the whole time. I never really stopped playing basketball. Even till recently, I play here and there, like pickup games with family and things like that. But I never got on like a team like that. No.
Oh, that's too bad. It's I don't know if it's too bad, right?
Yeah.
Some people are never do it. I did. I played baseball and I loved it. I mean, it was just
Did
my
you?
game was baseball. I played a little bit of football, but I got hurt real quick, and my mother was like, "Football's not for you. You're a little too scrawny of a kid." I was really always a scrawny kid.
This was
But
in high school.
yeah, in high school, yeah, I was
Oh,
always
got it.
a. I've grown, but it
Uh
took a while. It took a
huh.
while.
Late
Um,
bloomer.
yeah, yeah. So, did you go to college out of high school?
So at that time, my uncle was an admissions advisor at a proprietary school or like a private school where investors, build out a school and they have like fast path careers. So he convinced me to go to this school, and I was there for about a year and a half. And at that time, I really wanted to get into something creative. Websites were starting to get built out. I wanted to learn how to do web development. That was super interesting to me. So I went to this school. They gave you a laptop. Tuition was crazy high for like a year, but at the end of that year, you came out with a diploma that specific school gave you. I did learn how to build out websites at that time, but I did nothing with it, to be honest. But that's what I did after high school. That didn't work out, and then right after that, I remember I signed up for community college because I never found work in web development. And then I did that for about a year and a half, and I got into sales, and that's where honestly the school situation kind of went downhill, and I just didn't see any value in it for what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I went to community college too. I didn't graduate high school. I
No
quit high
way.
school. Yeah, I quit high school at 16.
Uh huh.
And it's so funny when I think back on it. And I don't mean funny, haha, just funny, like just funny how things happen.
Yeah.
But I was told, I've kind of said this before. I was told I took like a special test as they give you in high school. And they
Mhm.
told me I was a hands-on learner. And when I asked what that meant, she said the guidance counselor told me that means you're going to work in construction your whole life.
Oh
And I
wow.
and I was super mad. The last thing I wanted to do was work in construction.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, why do I have to go to school to go to work in construction? So I quit school and went to work in construction.
You did?
Yeah, I did it for 8 years, and then I was super depressed, and I was complaining to my sister. I have an older sister,
Hmm.
and I was complaining to her, and she goes, there's this new thing called community college, and you can go there. And I was like, you can, but I don't even have. She was like, yeah, you can. I'll show you. And she literally you showed me all the steps, and that's where I went. I went to community college.
That's good. I mean, unfortunately, that happened, but I always think that everything that happens and doesn't happen is for a reason, right? Like
Yeah, I
you're
agree.
here, and so am I, and whatever happened because it kind
Yeah,
of had to, in a sense. Yeah.
agreed. Let's back up just a little bit. And
Mhm.
how did you get into graffiti? How does that happen?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of four boys, and brand new to a country, didn't really know much about the culture here. And I started high school. When I started high school, my school was pretty mixed. It's called Curie High School down the south side of Chicago as well. And it's predominantly, I would say, I don't know about now, but back then it was about 40% Hispanic, 50%, I would say African American, and then the rest is a little bit mixed. But I guess I was just trying to fit in, and I fit in with the guys that were into art, and I really like drawing at the time. I remember since I was in 5th or 6th grade, I would take coloring books, and instead of coloring them, I would try to draw the designs in the book itself.
That's super
Uh,
cool.
yeah, so I remember I sat next to this guy in urban studies. His name was Victor, and I would see him just write letters and letters over, and I never understood what he was doing. So I asked him one day. He explained what it was. He explained kind of like the history behind graffiti, and he started bringing me around his friends, which were his crew, and all of those guys did graffiti and used to write on stuff, and that's how I got started with graffiti and that kind of life. And I was doing that for pretty much all throughout high school. Even to this day now, I still love graffiti and I do it, but it's now only legally. Like I can't afford getting chased, I can't run. So as long as I'm, somewhere safe, I'll do it. But when I get a chance,
I remember when I was a kid, there was I was a teenager. And so probably you might remember it too, because it was kind of like in the late 80s, early 90s. It was some movie that came out about this graffiti artist, and the cops were always trying to catch him, and he was always one step ahead of them, and he was, graffitiing all over this place. And like the story was like he was like this folk hero.
uh-huh.
And I was working in cleaning, and I remember not getting it. Like everyone's like, "You don't get how great that movie is." I'm like, "No, I don't get it."
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to get spray paint off of brick walls?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Everybody loves a graffiti artist until you got to clean up after one. It's not that fun.
No, it's not. Those things stick on. The paint sticks
Yeah.
on for sure. Yeah.
So what were you just? Forgive my ignorance. Were you just writing PHES over and over again? Is that?
Yeah. So you start off with doing tags, which is just like with a marker. And then the whole point of graffiti, to be honest, since the dawn of it starting, it has always been like to get popular, to market your name and have notoriety in the community of graffiti writers. So back then, I would take the train. I would sneak out of my house. So I would sneak out of my house. I remember I would jump on the bus. The bus would take me to the train line that was closed. That train line would ride from downtown Chicago, right all the way to Midway Airport. And I would just walk the line. I remember I would dress in all black. I would have my little book bag. My parents had no idea I was out. And I would just write my name on stuff. And yeah, I mean, a couple of run-ins with the police and all that. But the whole point of it was that the next day, when the kids from your school are riding that train, or from other schools, they see that, you got your name up. Yeah.
Right. That's I can see where that would be exciting. Like that'd be a thing,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was. Even now, I mean, if anyone saw their name while they're riding a train, they probably think it's kind of cool,
I guess so. Again, every time I see graffiti on a train, I'm like, son of a.
Oh, yeah.
and not only that, but it's it's not like a book of poems where you can learn something or contemplate. It's literally just a name, and sometimes you can't. They're trying to be so artistic with the design. You don't even know what the name is.
Yeah, that's true.
2 arrows and an at symbol. Like, what is that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because street graffiti has gotten really popular lately. Like you take that guy like Banksy, for example, who's super popular and doing shows all over now. So it's kind of gone that way. I don't know. I'm not really I don't keep up too much with the scene like I used to, but yeah, I agree with you.
So you get into sales. What did you start selling?
So I just left high school. I started dating a guy that was in my crew. I started dating his sister, and she ended up getting pregnant. I was 17 years old, going on 18, I believe. No, 18 going on 19. And I got into sales because I wasn't working and I had a baby on the way. and I needed a job. So I remember one of my friends recommended me to interview at a store that sold cell phones, T-Mobile at the
Oh,
time, or
cool.
VoiceStream. It was actually VoiceStream at the time. And we used to be in the kiosk. I don't know if you ever ran into these guys, but back in the early 2000s, it was the guys at the mall that would greet you and try to get you to come by and offer you a free phone with a 2-year contract. So I was one of those guys. So I got into sales. At first, I was super shy. I didn't want to greet anybody. I would just kind of stand in the corner because I had never done sales, and I had never worked in anything remotely close to sales. It's always been like labor or other things or the video store, but never in a face-to-face interaction trying to get someone to buy something. So it got to the point where I think about 2 weeks in, one of the assistant managers kind of pulled me to the side. He's all like, "Hey, listen, you're not doing great, so you need to step it up. If not," he kind of told me in a nice way, like, "We're going to let you go," and I couldn't afford that. And I was not in a position where I could ask my parents, who also have 3 other kids that they got to take care of, that, "Hey, you guys have a grandson, you guys got to help me with." So it kind of made me come out of my shell in that regard, and it got me to selling, and I actually started doing pretty good. At that company, I got to the point where I was like a sales manager for a couple locations at a time.
I'm just super interested in, because I do a lot of management training,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really where I spend most of my time, is training a lot of times brand new managers, people working in the cleaning industry, and they get promoted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what you went through is something that all of us really have a difficult time going through, and that is being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And right. So if we could say, like, what was stopping you from being outwardly aggressive or outgoing and willing to talk to people, because it's uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what's the biggest hindrance of effective management. People just don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
they don't want to be
sure.
confrontational. I don't. It doesn't feel good, right? How did you become okay? I understand that you were like, I had to, but how did you start to be okay with being uncomfortable? Did you start like mirroring what someone else was doing? Like, were you watching the assistant manager or someone else and how they were doing, and you're like, okay, it doesn't seem like they're going to beat you up. They're just going to say no.
Yeah. It was a little bit of that. And I think at that time I was young and I was a little naive and I didn't know any better. I just knew that I didn't really have a choice. I needed to make, money for my family, and this was going to be a way to pay my bills. And I saw some of the checks that these guys were making because wireless was so new at the time. Some of these guys, and we were all young. We were all like 18, 19 years old, making really good money. Sometimes they'd get checks for $4,000 in just commission. It was crazy. And it just kind of did it because in that case, I had no choice. I think now I'm more self-aware of, at this point in my life, like what I like and don't like. And I think now it's become a choice if I want to put myself in an uncomfortable situation. But I think we need to do it. In life, you need to put yourself in those situations, even if you don't want to, obviously.
Yeah, I think that my whole existence, from beginning to end, if I've had any success, and I've had quite a few, it's all based on my ability to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because
100%.
it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people they just don't want to be uncomfortable. There are people who don't. Yeah, there are people who stay in relationships 10 years past they were any good, and you're like, why did you stay? And they just didn't. It was just more comfortable than to not, than to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah, it just becomes routine, I think, too. Like you become accustomed to it. You have a set routine, and to go and change all that up, I think some people are not willing to take that, to deal with that.
Yeah, no question. So how long did you do that for?
So I did that for about, I would say 5-6 years. I was there for a bit.
Yeah, and you see, you must have gotten right into it then. I mean, that's a pretty long career to be slinging cell phones.
Yeah, I did that, and then after that, I just stayed in the industry for a bit, but I was with that specific company about 5 or 6 years.
And so the sales part of it you got down, and I imagine it's fun too, is to if you just kind of unpacked your sales trajectory, because you went from brand new at being sales to being a sales manager for a couple of locations where I bet instead of the one being talked to, you had to do the talking to some, right? You had to go, hey, you're not doing so well. You're really going to have to, we're going to have to let you go eventually if you don't. To, that's outside sales. That's sitting outside the door waiting for people to walk by you. But then it gets to phone calls, cold calling, follow up, mailers, development, creation. I could totally see how you would embrace the sales aspect because it really is such a creative endeavor.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. And it really helped out. And like you said, going from, not wanting to sell myself to eventually managing people, it really shows you, obviously everyone has a different personality. Everyone has a different background, and you need to be able to coach everyone. And it really has helped me even with what I do now, being able to identify how to get someone motivated, because motivation is going to be different. So I'm glad, that I went through that experience.
Yeah, totally. It's so funny when we get to where we decide we're going to open our own company, which you clearly did. You look back and you just think of all the things that happen and all the lessons you've learned, all the jobs you've had, all the people you've had experience with. It really at some point just kind of aligns.
Oh, and
you're right. It makes total sense for you to not only be willing to start your own business, but then to be successful at it, which is not an easy feat. So with that being said, when did you start PHES cleaning?
So to, I guess, ramp up the time from when I was at T-Mobile, I did that. Then I did another cell phone company. I was at Verizon for about 10 years, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At some point I left for about a year to do collections for student loans. Then I went back to Verizon. And when I went back, I was more serious about it. And I told myself I was going to get myself promoted. But you know what? I don't know if it was, it could be a lot of variables that kind of came into play, but something in my second round there and in the job that I took after, I've just always had an itch to be my own boss and be in control of my day and my schedule. And that's always been something I've wanted to do. And I took a couple of cracks at it during this time. But for one reason or another, it just didn't map out, whether it was the industry or whatever it was. It just didn't work out. Luckily, I found this, and this so far is working out great. So I'm glad I found it.
Yeah, I have so many follow-up questions. Like, first of all, I could just imagine how often did your dad talk about being your own man and being in charge and doing your own thing and not relying on other people. And, I remember my dad, both my parents, when I was probably 10 years old, how they were, kitchen table talk was always about how terrible it was working for others. It was never a good story. Nobody ever came home with a good story. Like, I love my boss. It just didn't, not that that's not true for some people. It wasn't true in my household. My parents did not enjoy where they worked, And so for me, I kind of grew up going, man, if I ever had the chance to do it on my own, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
No, it definitely was. And in the last job that I had, to answer your question, as far as how I got started in cleaning, it was because I had a buddy that was actually an account manager for a commercial company. One day he randomly called me out of the blue during the time I was having one of these, moments where I didn't know what I wanted to do and wanted to change things up. And he's all like, hey, I have this guy that he bought into a commercial franchise company, which is where he worked. And he was the guy that was managing these accounts. And he wants out of it. He's selling it for like $1,500. And I had never considered cleaning. It's not something you think like, I'm going to get into cleaning, or you look forward to it. So I told him yes. And then the next day he calls me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. He ended up selling it to one of his buddies. And I'm like, oh. But that kind of sparked an interest in me wanting to learn more about cleaning. So I go on YouTube. I started watching all these videos. And what really sold me was the recurring business model, cash flow and just the industry as a whole, and kind of building your book of business. And and be honestly, the flexibility, like, being able to work from home if I needed to, or being anywhere, as long as, I help my team out and I'm accessible. And that's how I got into it. And I ended up setting up my business in September of 2019.
Wow, right before the pandemic?
Yes,
Your timing, holy heck.
I know.
So how did you get your first account? What was it?
So my first account, I think like a lot of us, it was I was using Home Advisor. So I got on Home Advisor. They gave me a call. They started calling me every so often. I finally jumped on one of their demos and paid for some of their leads. And I got our first account through Home Advisor. It was a residential account that we actually still have to this day. Yeah.
And what was the setup? Were you cleaning it once a month, every 2 weeks? What was the initial setup?
So with that one, and being so new to the industry, knowing nothing, I remember I would Google PDF checklists. I went on Etsy and found some checklists of cleaning and what we needed to do. And with that client, we even to this day, we have her on a biweekly schedule, but she's been with us now going on 3 years.
That is really, how did you know how to bid it? How did you know how much to charge? What did you do? Did you like walk the property and go, this is how long it's going to take me?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, no, I didn't. You know what? When I got interested in the cleaning industry, and because I was watching so many videos, there was a lot of helpful videos out there that from the get-go would tell you like, hey, if you want to own a business, don't do the cleaning yourself. And it was risky. And I remember I was worried the whole time, like, is this lady that I just hired going to show up? Is she going to be late? But I knew that I didn't want that. In order for me to scale the way I wanted to, I could not do the cleaning. I could not be out there. I could not do in-person bids. And the way that I quoted her, I had joined a couple of Facebook groups. And I think when I got the call, I called her. I asked her, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, the square footage of the house. And then I posted it in the group, and, I got a bunch of answers. And I went with the answer that kept being more recurring in conversation. And that's what I told her. And to this day, she still has that price.
That is, I'm so happy you brought up Facebook groups, because they are so valuable. Yeah. They're so helpful.
They are.
I know that I'm constantly reading people's questions and everybody's responses. And I sometimes give my 2 cents. It's super fun. It really is fun. And everybody has unique questions, from how do you get this out of this to, like, what's a great degreaser, to how would you bid this? And, and every job is different. Somebody wants me to clean the public bathrooms in a town square once a week. Okay. Somebody wants me to clean their garage 3 times a week. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different, Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So valuable.
They've been awesome. Honestly, if I did not have a Facebook and it was just like a group kind of social media, I would still be in it, because I've learned so much. I've actually made friendships through Facebook groups, because you're in the same industry, you ask the same questions, run into the same problems, and they've been super helpful.
Yeah, big shout out to all the administrators out there and that are running those Facebook groups, and to everybody who participates. Everybody who asks questions and gives some responses. And there have been times where it gets heated. Like, there are people who can be a little condescending, a little rude. But those are few and far between. Facebook groups. What a great tool.
Well, then we think of it, right?
Yeah, I know. And so you go from, I love this Home Advisor, because Home Advisor, I've heard that a bunch of times. I've heard a lot of people with Home Advisor. By the time I decided to go out on my own, I was knee deep in healthcare. And so I've really, since I've gone on my own, I've really only stayed in healthcare. I've only gone after nursing homes, hospitals, assisted living facilities. But cleaning is cleaning. The cleaning industry is a cleaning industry. Bidding a job is bidding the job. Understanding the job routine, the work assignment, the staffing, the oversight, the insurance that it's getting, the job is getting done, the presentation aspect of it. So you use Home Advisor, and you get that one account, and you don't clean it yourself. You never cleaned it yourself.
No, to this day, I've cleaned twice maybe. And one time was just to show up and help. And then the other time was to go for someone that missed a day, that couldn't make it. But I honestly got that from the videos, and it just really resonated with me and made a lot of sense. I think a quote that I read somewhere, and I don't know where I read it, but it was something like, you don't want to quit your job where you're an employee to go and then be an employee of your own business. So that just clicked with me. And I told myself, you know what, I think I would rather take that risk and maybe not make it to that job, or whatever happens kind of happens. But I can't afford to take on, become an employee of my business. So, and there's been some scary times. There's been times where, like I said, I didn't know the cleaner was going to show up, or people have called off last minute. But luckily, I've been able to, explain to the client what happened, and people are pretty understanding, when you're honest with them.
Yeah, it's so great. I'm so impressed that and again, you're speaking that whole point of how do you quit your job, your day job, and you don't want to quit your day job for another day job.
No, you don't.
And now you're just calling it your business, because as you know, it's very, very hard to get out of the cleaning business if you're the only one. It's hard to grow a cleaning business if you're the only one cleaning.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, and when I started the business, at that point, I was working in B2B sales for an HR company. So I would actually have meetings with business owners all the time. And something that would happen all the time, we would set up a Zoom call, or we would set up a meeting, and they couldn't make it because something came up, or they had to go out and be out in the field. So it was real valuable for me to work at that company and talk to so many business owners and see firsthand what problems they were dealing with or how they were running their business. And I just knew I just didn't want to have those issues, and luckily I kind of stuck to my guns, in that regard, and it's worked out well.
Again, one of those things for anybody who is listening and wondering what do they have to do to open their own business, I think you just said something very important, and that is learn the art of business. And if that means you volunteer for all those terrible jobs, like you were talking about, you're working in student loan collections, being able to collect money, let me tell you what, that's a game changer. There are people who simply do not know how to get paid, and getting paid that could be harder than getting the business.
For sure. Yeah.
And so understanding how business works, how to get a customer, how to keep a customer, how to satisfy a customer, how to get paid from a customer, how to invoice, how to problem solve, valuable, right? Really, really valuable. Mm-hmm. So is that the lane that you stayed in, the residential, or did you break off eventually and go into commercial?
You know what? I really couldn't, because I have not been full-time with this business until August of this year. So I literally have been on my own 3 months now. Wow. I was doing this while I was working in my sales job. And when the pandemic hit, they made us all remote. So I would work my 9 to 5 during those hours. And that consisted of me doing a lot of cold calling, doing a lot of email blasting, being a B2B rep for that business, for that company. And I was just really kind of just getting the phone calls for my business and setting up a bid or sending them a quote and trying to keep my staff busy. And it's not until I got to the point where I felt, okay, I can match my work salary. And now it's time to take that leap and see how far I can scale it. But it took a while. And then you throw in a pandemic. So it wasn't easy. I think during the pandemic, for those 2 months, March and April, we did absolutely nothing. We didn't know what was going on. We completely shut down. And then when we came back, thank God, we've been full force ever since. But I've only been on my own, where it's just focused on just this for about 3 months now.
And are you going to stay in the residential side? Is that where you're going to?
No, I do want to branch off into commercial. I know a lot of companies want to do either or. I don't see why you can't do both. I feel that you can. But I do little by little want to branch off into commercial. So I spend the majority of my time now still answering residential calls if they call, but a lot of email blasting, trying to connect with people on LinkedIn. I'm approaching it like I approached my B2B job, because that's really what I was doing. I was doing the same thing, but now I'm just doing it for myself, and now they're my clients. And I still do have a lot to learn on the commercial side. So I'm still going through that, but I think we're doing fairly well for only being about 3 months in, where
I,
I'm on, doing this full time.
yeah, I think that's really, I, I think you're absolutely right. I have a friend
Hmm.
named Phil Jones, Phil
Hmm.
M. Jones. He's a sales guru, author, speaker, like he does all this international sales training. Really great guy. But I was just attending a workshop that he gave, and he was saying the same thing where, a lot of people are like, I'm going to stay in one lane. And he goes, if you go to my website, I have something for you. If you have $8 and if you have 8,000, if you have
Hmm.
20,000, you have 100,000, you have 800. It's like, I have a program, I have a product, I have
Yeah.
a service for every level. And it just made sense to me. And it's kind of like how I'm hearing from you. It's like, why can't I offer multiple
Hmm.
services to multiple organizations? I think there's value in specializing in one, but I think there's
Hmm.
value, like you're saying, in being a little bit more flexible.
Yeah. And I mean, in business on the commercial side, there's a lot of verticals. Like, for example, you mentioned that you stick to like nursing homes and medical, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to go and branch off into commercial and try to do everything in commercial, because I can't.
Yeah.
But I would be okay with sticking to residential, which I think I've got a pretty good grasp on, and then maybe focus on 2 or 3 verticals in commercial, maybe sticking to that. We've been doing a lot of commercial for property management companies, so I've really considered trying to stick to that niche, and residential at the same time.
Yeah, you know what else is interesting about that model, potentially, of doing both residential and commercial, is the timing.
Hmm.
Residential is normally clean during the day
Hmm.
and when nobody's home, and commercial is cleaned at night when nobody's at work, right?
Yeah.
So you could potentially, I have a friend, John, who owns a cleaning company in St. Louis. No, where is he? Where is he? Not in St. Louis. Maybe Louisville, Kentucky.
Mhm.
And he always makes this great point that it's easier to get somebody who's already working to work more rather than it is to try to get somebody off the couch. Like, he's like, I don't fight the battle from the couch.
Yeah.
People aren't working, they're going to stay not working. But if people
Hmm.
have a full-time job, they're more apt to take and, work 3-4 hours a night on a
Hmm.
part-time job. And, if you're offering both, like, hey, I have, you can, I have some some residential cleaning this morning,
Hmm.
and then take a few hours off and come back tonight and clean some commercial properties for us.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty easily, you know,
Yeah,
money's money.
it's worked well for the most part. The commercial that we do have, it's pretty. I guess your standard hours, like your 8 a.m. to like 7 p.m. At this point, I haven't taken anything overnight. I don't know if I want to be honest. I have a small daughter. I have 2 daughters, and my younger daughter's going to be 4. And I want to be at home. I don't know if I want to deal with
Yeah.
troubles that may come up in commercial and get 2, 3 a.m. phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I know a lot of people who clean restaurants and bars and
Yeah.
kitchens, and they don't start till 2 a.m. and they
Yeah.
have to be done by 10 a.m., when they open the next day. But you're right, man. Those are tough hours. Those
Yeah.
are tough hours. I mean, you have a call out. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, for
that
sure.
restaurant needs to be cleaned, right?
Yeah.
That kitchen needs to be cleaned. And so when you take on that kind of business, you're all in. Those are your,
Yeah.
it reminds me is I don't know. Somebody's gonna have to reach out and tell me if it's the truth anymore. But it used to be Dunkin Donuts, the corporate office of Dunkin Donuts. Do you have Dunkin Donuts where you are?
Yeah, a bunch.
Yeah, okay. So Dunkin Donuts corporate office, their hours, they used to open at 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And everybody had to be there at 5 a.m. The CEO, the CFO, the HR, everybody started at 5 a.m. because that's when all their franchisees started.
Wow.
And could you imagine if they're like, oh, we're a corporate, we're going to start at 9. Their franchisees are open and handling problems for 4 hours, but 5 hours before they even open. Like,
Yeah.
that's not good, right? So I'm only
Mm-mm.
bringing that up because if you own a business that is from overnight, then your business hours are overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have
Yeah,
much of a
no,
choice.
100%. And I think that's why I haven't really branched off too much into that. And luckily, with like the property management companies, we do the buildings during the day. It's usually like your common areas and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. So that's been working out.
I live just outside of New York City, and
Mhm.
I have always looked at cleaning as, you know, one part doing the job and the other part traveling to the job,
Mhm.
especially when you're in the commercial cleaning space, because you're going from one site to another site to another site to another site. And it wasn't until I moved down here that I had some experience running into cleaning companies that legitimately clean one building and they have 200 customers
Wow.
because they're all apartments.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have 500-600 apartments in one building.
Yeah.
One building has that, you know, it's a massive space down here, and it's all, you know, high rises. And you can literally go to the same building 5 days a week, 6 days a
Mhm.
week, and be completely busy with a full crew because you're cleaning apartment after apartment after apartment after apartment.
Yeah.
It's
And you save on gas. So
well,
that's
yeah, of course. The travel. You could
yeah.
even live in the apartment, right?
Rent one out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's so funny. I wonder, what do you do? Here's just a question, just because I'm curious.
Uh-huh.
Do you do anything? How do you prove that you were clean somebody's house? Like, I have somebody who cleans my house every 2 weeks. They come into my house,
Mhm.
and when my wife gets home, my wife's the inspector, not
Mhm.
me. So my wife will always declare. She'll always ask, she'll be like, "Did Hilda come?" And she'll start looking for evidence.
Oh, wow.
Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, was this taken care of? Or there'll be some laundry that's folded and on a dresser. Ah, she must have been here. There's a laundry. Like, and so I'm
Yeah.
always cognizant of that. Like, do you intentionally have a proofer? Like, some people use a checklist. And
Uh-huh.
so I have a friend in Boston who Lakeisha, who
Mhm.
leaves cookies. So she leaves like homemade cookies
Yeah.
because she's in, you know, she cleans apartments every once a month or every
Mhm.
2 weeks or whatever. And so she always leaves cookies. Like, that's a nice little proof that she was there.
Yeah.
Do you do anything like that?
We don't do anything like that, but we do pictures, a lot of like before and afters.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we try to make sure there's nothing in the home that's personal to the client, but it will take like a picture of a dirty fridge and then the after picture. Same thing with like toilets and tubs. And then we use that obviously for like our Google My Business and to market. But that's what we do. And then what we do at the end of it is we upload that in the invoice. So then when they get a receipt, all the pictures are part of the invoice.
Oh, that is
And
very cool.
yeah, they really like that. We've gotten good feedback from that.
Oh, that is very smart. I like that a lot too. We had a dog walker for a while, and now with COVID and everything, and I've gone so much on the other side where I'm really remote. I've been doing education
Uh-huh.
from my office in my house, that we don't have a dog walker anymore. Now I am the dog walker.
Yeah.
But when we did have a dog walker, they always sent pictures.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, just the cutest little, you know, and it was almost like a proof that we were there,
Hmm.
you know?
I
And
mean, yeah, and you can't fake a picture.
you can't fake a picture. And
Yeah.
I always just thought it was such a great thing. I just interviewed a guy in Florida, and
Mhm.
he had crews. He does a lot of floor care. So
Mhm.
they're literally just going from one place to another place to another place, and stripping and refinishing floors and that kind of thing. And he does it all via picture. So he's just like you. He's like commanding the whole operation, and people, his crew, are just sending him pictures. Done. Hey, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like now. You know,
Yeah.
before, and that's his proof that they got in there and does it. I don't know if he shares it with the client though. That's a smart idea.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It started with commercial because one of the property managers, one of the requirements for her to give us the account is she wanted pictures because the company that she had before would say that they would show up and they kept having this issue where they felt that nothing got done. So I remember when we took on that account, she's like, "Hey, I need you to email me pictures at the end of the day." And then we started doing it with her, and it just kind of, snowballed into us doing it with everybody. So, and clients like that.
You know, I have the opposite reaction to pictures in healthcare, because normally what happens in healthcare is people take pictures to show you how terrible it is.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So like, did you see this room, or did you see this bathroom, or did you see this mess?
Yeah.
It could be quite a challenge. I too take an awful lot of dirty pictures of dirty rooms and dirty situations, and using it as an example. But I had this situation in hospitals. We really struggled for a long time, and I know it's still a struggle for a lot of people. But in hospitals, the way that housekeeping or the cleaning is rated is by the customer, meaning not the hospital. The hospital is not the customer. We're talking about the actual patient, the person who was in the hospital for, a broken leg, a broken hip, or head trauma, or something like that. And their length of stay, they're in the hospital for a couple of days. They get a survey in the mail. And that survey is all on not just on cleaning, it's on everything. Yeah. But one of the questions is, how was the cleaning? And more often than not, we would get NA as a response, like not applicable. Like, how is it not? And the reason is because they never saw us.
Oh.
And so because they didn't see us, they didn't think we were ever there. They're like, I don't know. I never saw the housekeeper. I never saw the cleaner. And, so it puts in your mind, like, all right, how do we get credit? We're waking up patients. Wake up. I just want to let you know we're here.
Look at me mop.
Try to keep the floor wet with a wet floor sign or something. Any evidence at all,
No, for sure.
It's a hard thing to overcome. How do you prove that you were there? Especially if, which is what happens in healthcare, there's way more people making a mess than there are cleaning up after the mess.
Yeah, 100%.
So they'll be like in a typical, let's say, nursing home, say like a 100-bed nursing home, there could be 100, 150 employees, and then 100 people live there, and so there's 250 people, and there's 6 housekeepers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the math doesn't work out at all. Like, there's no chance, that everybody's going to pick up after themselves. Everybody's not going to drag water, snow, and all that into the building, And so then it becomes a real, every time I go into the bathroom at 3:00, it is a complete mess. And so I know housekeeping is not cleaning it. Well, it's not true. Housekeeping is cleaning it, but they're doing it at 8 a.m.
when you're not there.
Right. 250 people have used that bathroom since they've cleaned it. So it's always interesting to me how people approach, getting credit or leaving some type of
something behind, right?
What's unfortunate is in cleaning, I don't have to tell you this, but it's all about odor and clean floors. Like, if the floors are shiny and there's no odor, the housekeeping department or the cleaning department, best thing in the entire world.
Yeah, that's true.
On the other side, it could be the cleanest in the world, but have an odor. Housekeeping, cleaning, they suck here. It's terrible,
Yeah, for sure, 100%, and that happens a lot in residential. I've gotten calls, and I know that they mop the floors, and they'll send me pictures of the floor just after it just got mopped, and then the client will send me a picture like, "Hey, did you guys even mop?" But you're right. Like, if they don't see the floor like shiny when they arrive, they just assume like, "Oh, well, you didn't do it" or something, Yeah, but
it's true. It's true. And I remember, I've been doing this so long. There's been so many situations where I remember, contemplating the first time somebody brought up the idea that if you don't kill the spider, there will always be a spider web. Like, that's a mind game with you. When you're not thinking about it like that, you're like, I got the cobwebs. Well, I was there yesterday and there were cobwebs.
Yeah.
I swear I got them. Well, did you get the spider? No. All right. That spider, what their first thing they're doing when after you take down their cobweb, they're going to make another one.
Oh, for sure.
Dust is always falling, my friend. It's always falling. Thank God.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, so job security.
That's right. So what's next for you?
So I think
just
right now
it's growing, right? Just
I think for sure. Yeah, keep scaling. Right now, my focus is trying to find more employees. I feel that the employees that I have now have enough recurring clients that I've noticed My schedule is pretty busy, and I do need to start bringing on board some more people to start trying to get more work. So right now, my focus has been that, and also focusing more on commercial too. Because the thing with residential, it's you really can't prospect, right? You're not going to call a random person and say, "Hey, let me clean your house," or "Who's cleaning your house now?" But you can with commercial. So I focus more of my time prospecting for commercial, and then residential has been mainly through Google or referrals now. But that's what my goal is for the next year, to try to get more staff and continue to grow.
Yeah, another thing. I First of all, I love prospecting residential. I think there's all kinds of, just
Mhm.
putting the door tags up, and
Oh yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of things that you certainly can do. I
true.
I live in a neighborhood where there's probably 8 or 10 landscaping companies in my neighborhood.
Hmm.
Think about that. Like, it's like almost as if everybody in my neighborhood, we all use
Yeah.
somebody different for landscaping. That's how many landscaping companies there are.
Hmm.
And the reason there are that many landscaping companies is because, one person gets upset with that landscaper, so they go find another one, and then, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing with cleaners, though.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with cleaning companies, and so they think there's a lot of opportunity out there. And the other thing, though, I think, we didn't really talk about it, but summer's coming. I know that we're just about in the holiday season, but summer's tough for us in residential cleaning.
Yeah. No, it is.
COVID was tough for that very reason because everybody's
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. COVID for sure was tough. I mean, like I said, those 2 months, we didn't do anything. The bigger reason for that is because I think a lot of us didn't know how COVID, anything about COVID. So we all assumed the worst. I know I did, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to take that chance and have people out in the field, and there was no vaccine in sight at that time. So I just decided, and at that point, I had my full time job, so it just made sense for me to close shop. We didn't do anything those 2 months. But yeah, we'll see how this summer ends. I'm more optimistic about it. I think with the vaccination rates are as high as they are, I hope that we get that sense of normalcy back in life this coming year.
Yeah, boy, I hope too. I hope too.
I
For
think so.
everybody.
I think it'll happen.
Yeah, hopefully, and not least of which for business owners out there, because it's been such a struggle. I think the only saving grace that I've had was that I work in healthcare. We never closed down.
Oh
We COVID, schmovid. We were still going in. We're still gowning up. We're still putting on PPE and working. You know what? Actually, I think that actually helped. I know it certainly helped me be a lot more comfortable with COVID.
yeah.
I was never one who was I never got it. I never
Oh, good.
had it. And my wife got it. All the kids got it, but I never got sick. I'm vaccinated because I work in healthcare. And so
Yeah.
when you work in healthcare, you just have to accept that you get vaccinated a few times a year. You don't get
Uh-huh.
the flu vaccine. I don't care. Who cares?
All of them. You're like
Yeah,
stick.
whatever. It really, I have no issue with vaccines at all.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it doesn't mean that I know there's error rates and all that stuff. I don't mean that. I just mean when you work around the vulnerable population,
Hmm.
we've always been, you either get vaccinated, like the flu vaccine, you either get it or you wear a mask and all that. And then
Yeah.
all of us are like, we're going to wear a mask until we're wearing a mask. And we're like, this sucks. Well, I can just take a shot. I'll just take the shot, but,
Yeah.
but, that's kind of how it happened. But I've been working around HIV and
Oh wow.
C. diff and VRE and MRSA and COVID and the swine flu and H1N1 and hepatitis, and for so many years that I don't know.
Well, I
It's
would imagine, right? Like you said, when probably all this started happening, if anything, it probably got you, I would assume, more busy, more, right?
Well, we lost a lot of staff. A
Oh,
lot of people walked out. A lot of people were like, "I'm not working. COVID is going to kill people."
yeah.
And fair. I understand fear, and
Mhm.
that's fair, and I understand where everybody's coming from. But we care for people who are at end of life,
Yeah.
and imagine being them. That we all can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
right? If everybody leaves, then the nursing home is full of people who are being uncared for. It means nobody's helping them get to the bathroom. Nobody's making sure that they're getting any water and getting anything to eat. Nobody's helping them get up in the morning, brushing their teeth. Like those things are super important. And when you work in healthcare, you have to. You don't have to. I would say that if you're going to choose to work in healthcare, and I know most people are like this, then you do it because it's your calling, and you understand there's a risk to working around people who are sick, but it's also probably one of the most rewarding. So,
yeah, I agree.
So it was very challenging. I had a lot of people quit. A lot of people just straight up, nope, not working around COVID. See you later. I'm like, well, yeah, but all right. Wait, not you too? Okay. Wait. Call. Hi, wife. Hi. Yeah. No, I'm gonna live here now because you know what I mean? Like nobody's here. So
yeah, you're like, bring me my pajamas.
Yeah. It's what are you gonna do? I mean, and that's what it was like for. And again, I live in New York, just outside of the city, and COVID here in New York was
kind of the first kind of stomping grounds, right?
It was scary. It was everybody was on edge. Everybody was on edge.
Yeah.
COVID.
I know. I feel like it's time flew by. I mean, I can't believe that it's going on almost 2 years since all of this started. That's nuts. Yeah.
Agreed. It's like what, 51 days till Christmas?
Yeah.
Such a big fan of Christmas.
Are you?
Oh my gosh. Are you or no?
Oh yeah, I am. Especially with a 3-year-old at home.
Oh my God, you have little kids?
Yeah. It's awesome.
I love it. It's the greatest ever. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on today's show. How do people? You must be hiring.
Yeah.
Right. So, how do people find you if they're looking for work? If they're looking to have somebody clean their house for you, how do they get a hold of you?
So they can go on our website. It's www.phes.io, or they can email me if they're interested. Email your resume, any experience. I would really hope you have experience in residential or even commercial. And our email is info@phes.io.
And by experience, you mean a pulse, I imagine.
Yeah, you need a pulse.
You have a pulse and you're willing to work.
Yes. Oh, and have a car. We need you to have a car.
Oh, there you go. And boy, you're asking a lot.
I know. I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
yeah.
What if I can get a ride, right? Like that's it's so funny. I have a friend who cleans residential, and their marketing campaigns all about competing with 15-year-olds, right? Because
wow.
Who's cleaning your house if you're not having somebody come in? Your kids, and they probably don't want to. So stop fighting with your children. Hire us. It's a nice piece of business right there.
Yeah.
That's it for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today and learning all about PHES. No, just PHS. PHES. Yeah, ES.
PHS, yeah.
I keep thinking FEZ, which is FES.
That's the hat, I think.
Yeah, that's the FES Cleaning Services, Salvador Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on. Again, if you like today's episode, please make sure that you share the show. Make sure you tell everybody about it. Write us a review. Subscribe. If you want to see more, if you missed a video, make sure you go to YouTube. That's where you can find us, is on YouTube. We're there. That's it for us. Thank you so much for being with me today.